Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Dawn Murray, um, and this is a very special webinar that we're having tonight. We have a very special guest with us, international renowned psychic medium, best-selling author, artist and animal lover, Gordon Smith. Hi Gordon, it's great for you
Hi,
to be with
Dawn.
us tonight. How are you?
Thank you. Oh, I'm great, and thank you for having me on. All things relating to animals, I'm more than happy to try to contribute. I am a big animal lover, as you know.
I know, I believe you've got a couple of dogs yourself.
I do. I have two English Springer Spaniels, Cookie and Lizzie, or the Cookie Monster and Elizabeth Taylor. So cute as anything.
Lovely. Oh, dogs are fabulous, and they're so good for our health because they get us up
Yes,
and about and give us such a purpose in life.
absolutely.
It's great to have you here, Gordon, because my work since we last met in person, which was many years ago now.
Yeah.
I am now I spend some time mentoring, teaching, pet bereavement counselling. And one question that keeps popping up time and time again is about pets and the afterlife. Now, obviously, we all have different beliefs, and
Yeah.
as a pet bereavement counsellor, we can't recommend a client takes a certain path
Mhm.
to find comfort or a healing journey. That's entirely up to them. Um, but we do get asked from time to time, and I think it's important that we have an understanding of what it is, because we've got psychics, we've got mediums, there's animal communication, there's all sorts. And when we get asked, I think it's only fair that we if we give an honest answer,
Mm.
this is what we believe, can happen. Um, and I remember, oh gosh, I'm going back many years now, when you did the book launch for your incredible book, The Amazing Power of Animals,
Yeah.
at the Clarkson Halls, I believe it was. And you spoke about how animals present. And I thought when we were discussing doing, this webinar or prior to actually speaking to you, I'm thinking, how best can I explain this? And I thought, you know what? There's only one person in the world that can explain this.
Well, I mean, for me, Dawn, having worked as a medium for many years and probably given many tens of thousands of readings to people, I would say at least 50% of all the readings I've done have included animals,
Really?
pets. Mhm.
Gosh.
And having always had dogs and cats in my life, growing up, um, I have a deep love for animals and a deep connection to my animals. I've always felt it. And therefore I feel the life force.
Mhm.
And even as a medium, if I'm talking to you, for instance, and I'm doing a reading, all of a sudden there'll be an instance where an animal appears by my side, or I feel it. I first of all feel the presence. So for anybody who's watching with us tonight or that who has a cat, now you know they don't really make much noise when they enter a room, but you know they're there. So
Yes,
you
yes.
feel that majestic presence. And that's how a medium feels it with an animal. Or there's times I just get a sense of excitement and go, oh, I don't see it, but at my feet there's a little spaniel or something. And you get that sense of the animal. And then I'll start to describe it. And then sometimes I'll close my eyes and I'll see a picture of what it looked like, hear the name of the animal, and maybe even see memories that a
Mhm.
person had with that particular pet. So
Yeah,
therefore, there's a communication
sure.
because people need to understand that animals, obviously, all living things are consciousness, and
Mhm.
animals are quite high up in the chain of consciousness,
Yeah, yeah.
and they're emotional.
Mhm.
For about 14 years, I worked with one of the world vets, a lovely man, an Irish vet, and he taught me about the behaviour of animals. And one of the beautiful stories, if I can say it briefly, Don, was that he was talking about the incredible compassion that animals can have. and even sense danger for one another and things like this. And he said he was working out in India, I think it was at the time, and they were using elephants to carry telegraph poles
Yeah.
in their trunks.
Mhm.
And he was there as the vet in case any of the animals got sick. And he said this particular female, he said she was the most kind, lovely animal. You could approach her, do everything. She was wonderful. He said, and for no reason, she stopped dead and would not deliver the pole to the hole that it was to go in. And the elephant keeper was pushing her, doing everything he could. No, she dug her heels in. And somebody had the good sense to look in the hole, which he said was about 10 meters further ahead, so you couldn't see in it. And there was a baby kitten
Oh gosh.
in the hole. And he said, no, there's nothing, he said, within, the scope of animal sensitivity, he said, that would say that that elephant should care that there was a kitten in that hole.
Yes,
He said, and yet she did, she stopped. The moment they removed the kitten, she walked as if nothing had happened. And he said, for me, he said, observing that as a vet, he said, to see that reaction from an animal towards a baby of another animal that it could sense was in danger. So, because they would have filled the hole with cement.
Yeah.
So you think, wow, that's incredible. And that just tells you then, for me, that animals, if they can feel emotions, when they pass to the other side, that emotional feeling can come back through as part of their personality. And it gives strength or evidence to the messages that I would be giving on their behalf. So actually, sometimes animals are better communicators than the people who pass over.
Yes, I think so. One of the questions, one of my colleagues, Niall Morton, he had said, if a pet sends out a sign, for example, how do we recognise that is there a way to recognise, I guess, that sign is from them? And if they don't recognise it, would the pet just then give up, not bother trying anymore, type of thing, saying maybe they don't want a sign? I don't know.
Well, I would imagine that it's nothing to do with the pet sending out the sign. If that animal has a loving bond with you and had that through its life and still has it, that's what gets carried on into the next life. That animal is there. It's us who are unaware. So it's he who, in some ways, if he does get a sign, it's like trying to accept that could be a sign. Not be gullible and accept everything that happens.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a feather. Oh, there's a robin. Oh, there's a coin. Everybody has signs like that says, that's my mother, And think, what was your mother? Mother Goose. She's get molten with feathers here. But every time my mother appears, there's feathers. You think, was she a drag queen? But what I'm meaning is the consciousness of the animal, that I like to say, that the consciousness is still very vibrant and alive, and just try and be aware of them the way you would be when they were in your life. Don't go looking for ghostly animals or some paranormal thing. It's actually more normal than to feel the love of that beautiful animal. It may only happen once or twice after the passing. Who knows? I wouldn't limit it to that, but it may only be that. And if it is, just acknowledge it and go, wow.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
You're there, or there's, it's just a lovely thing to acknowledge that love returning to you.
Absolutely. And I think, I still talk away to my pets that have long passed over now. And it keeps them alive for me, so I know, I mean, now, for example, one of my dogs, it's passed 7 years ago. I can very easily just, if I really focus and concentrate, I can imagine him right by my side, and I'll talk away to him like that. One of the other my other colleague, Sandra Farrell, in America, Sandra was wondering if pets choose their time of death.
Again, I'm not so sure about the whole choice of things. I think that there's moments to die for everybody, and that includes pets, that we have several possibilities of leaving this world. You can turn a corner one day and that could actually extend your life instead of going that way. And I would assume with animals as well, there's certain options within the course of their life. you know, my crazy cookie when he was younger could go tearing after anything, a pheasant, a rabbit, something. And there were so many times he put himself in danger. So
Yeah.
there were many times he could have died, I suppose. But luckily, we always managed to find him in time or get him back and all this stuff. But like everyone, there are moments on different timelines, I would say, Dawn. So we all have that. For us, it's more to do with free will. So if you're walking down a road and you come to a crossroads, the choice you make can determine how long your life's going to be, or how rich your life's going to be, or how you know how difficult your life's going to be by that choice. And I would assume that some pets, not all animals, but some pets, because they live with us, can be within our timeline of life as well, of living and dying.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose that, you know, for me, I get that type of, you know, question quite a lot from people whose cats get up and wander off and
Oh
don't come
yeah.
back. But why that happens, I don't know.
I think of all animals that I know of, cats tend to know when they're going to die more than any other animal.
Right,
But
yeah.
I think cats live by a very different law to everything else on the planet, because, and I do believe that. I think cats are highly sensitive. They're incredibly knowing.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I love my doggies. They're crazy and lovey and cuddly, but a cat is in many ways so superior. And it's understanding of things. It won't often get into trouble of any kind because it knows. They're just knowing. And I often have heard stories of cats that went under a bush to die, or into a particular cupboard, or went out of the house just to die.
Yeah.
And there's something in that is very risen consciousness. That's a very high consciousness. We wrongly assume animals are lesser than us with the expansion of their mind. And there are many animals whose minds are way more expanded than people.
Yeah,
You know, if consciousness is about understanding where you are in life and who you are and what you are, then there are many animals that actually really have an incredible open consciousness. A very, you know, when people say, "Oh my God, that dog has been here before," or "that cat has," you know, it's very wise or whatever. But in actual fact, they are. Some of these animals are just incredibly expanded in their consciousness.
Yeah, I know I've certainly had both cats and dogs, as you know. And I must admit, the cats, quite often, well, my cat Denzel, I always called him my spooky cat because he was so
Denzel, Greyhound
Denzel
comes
was
to
my
me.
cat.
I
Yes,
know, but
yes,
Greyhound
yes,
comes to
yes.
my memory there. When you mentioned Denzel, I see the Greyhound.
That's right. That's right. Because Denzel was my cat that did they called him the Greyfriars Bobby of the Cat World
Ah,
because he sat at the sort of statue, if you like, in the back in the garden of the Greyhound.
yeah,
But it was funny because when I bought the ashes, when I get Kaz's ashes home,
yeah.
The first time now I put them away in my room, the ashes, and Denzel came in and he walked into the room, and I kid you not, I mean the fur, it was like something out, you know, a cartoon like Tom and Jerry type style. You know, the fur went up, the tail went up, and he screamed the place down, and he about turned and he ran out the house.
Absolutely.
And do you know, the thing is, it's one of these things. I lived that, I experienced it, I know what I saw with my own eyes.
Yeah.
And do you know, it's the type of thing, Gordon, that for somebody to say to me there was something that frightened the cat, there was nothing. The only thing that had changed in that room that particular day was the fact that I'd put Kaz's ash. It was, you know, it was in a nice urn and everything, and it was on top of a unit. But thereafter, the cat, when he did come back into the house, he just kept going up tapping on it like he was saying, "Hello, you in there? Can I speak to you?" You know.
But once again, you have to look at, that's nothing to do with intelligence. That's consciousness.
Yeah.
That animal is highly sensitive. If it would have been a person, you'd have had to say that they were a medium or a psychic.
Mm-hmm.
And that cat had that ability of knowing, just knowing that there's a connection to that object
Mm-hmm.
of the dog. So
Yeah.
in psychic terms, that's like doing psychometry. By
Mm-hmm.
just touching something, you might get a feeling from it. So for the cat just to touch the urn, and it's almost an acknowledgement of, I know you're there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet, what is there? Ashes, or is there some residue of spiritual being?
Mm-hmm.
And the cat can detect it. Yeah.
He did that for night after night. I mean, and for months.
Yeah.
It wasn't an isolated incident where I thought, oh my goodness,
Mhm.
oh, that was exciting. It was night after till eventually 3 o'clock in the morning every night, tap, 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 tap. So eventually I was like, Denzel, just leave it alone. Just leave it alone,
Yeah.
The novelty for me wore off, but not for him.
Yeah.
Not for
Mhm.
him. But it's funny though you saying that, because when one of my own dogs that had passed on about 7 years ago, he was a great loss to me, and I didn't handle my loss particularly well,
Yeah.
regardless of the work that I do.
Oh, absolutely.
It's more do as I say, not as I do. And so many years has passed. I had other dogs I adopted in, because I used to adopt in a lot of elderly dogs who tended to be overlooked in the sort of rescue centres. And 6 years ago now, we got the opportunity to get a puppy, and we brought the puppy in. And this puppy is now a 6-year-old dog, and his mannerisms are so like the dog from way back, to the point that the dog that died, I felt it was very unusual mannerisms for a dog to use.
Yeah.
And now I have another dog with exactly the same mannerisms. And I kind of wonder if that's almost like my sign, if you like, that I'm getting, that he's still around me.
And again, why not? I mean, the world is full of things we don't know. And even as a medium, I only know a little bit about life after death, because of the many, if you want to call them, they would be, if you like, case studies. There are thousands of them that I've taken part in. And if they were case studies and you were studying a phenomena, then I have a massive kind of amount, of practice in that field. But even at that, it's so small compared to what it really is. The whole entirety of it. And I can only actually ever answer questions on this subject based on what I truly know. Other than then, it's just a belief. And the things I know because they happened, and you can't take them away. I mean, I'll never forget being in a room somewhere in England. I think it was Leamington Spa. And I happened to say to a man, "This is going to sound utterly ridiculous, sir, but you had a pet hyena and it died." And I just see it sitting beside you. Now, we're in Leamington Spa in England, small place.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, who would have a hyena? But he said, I understand exactly. He said, it's an African wild dog and it looks identical to a hyena. And that was my pet. He said, you're not really supposed to have them as pets, but it was mine. He says, and it broke my heart when she died. Oh. And I said, well, she's sitting beside you. I can just see this. I said, I'm sorry to call her a hyena if she's not, but that's the only thing. I had no idea there was such a thing as an African wild dog. But something like that, you can't make that up. Where do you make it up from?
Yeah.
If you see what I mean. And it's the amount of messages that have come through from the other side to people. The amount of times even people have seen the apparition of an animal that saved their life. There's a lovely story I have in one of the books I wrote about, was it a Tibetan gentleman? Or no, people who were in Tibet or the Himalayas, and they got lost and a dog appeared. And this dog guided them. They did no idea, they just followed it. And they thought it must have come from somewhere. And as they came down through the clouds and all the various things, and when they got to safety and they looked and there was no dog, and they wanted just to pat the dog or cuddle it, and the dog was not there. And you look and go, well, where did it go?
Yeah.
And why did it guide them? And again, these are all things that you look at and think, well, did that happen or did it not? And if it did happen, if these two women who got lost are lying, why would they do that? What reason would they have to say that they were terrified and then a dog appeared and rescued them and then disappeared? So there are so many cases of animal return from the other side. And like you just mentioned, Don, many people have animals that resemble in behaviour, not in looks, in behaviour, to the animal that passed before them. And that's another interesting phenomena that happens with people who continue with pets. That there's certain traits that do seem to come back again. And I have that at the moment with our Cookie Monster, because we had Cheeky Charlie before him.
Yeah, yeah.
Or to give them their names, Lord Fluffington and the second Lord Fluffington.
I know you've read a lot about Charlie. That's how I know
Cheeky
about
Charlie.
Charlie.
And again, Charlie. He was my special dog.
Yeah.
He was drawn for me on the day he was born, which I still to this day have no way of explaining that phenomenon. We were sitting in a little group meditating, and one of the women was an artist, and she's had a picture in her head of a little spaniel, and she drew him in pencil and then drew a little marks, one collar red, no, collar blue, barrel red, a little barrel around, and Springer Spaniel, spots on his chest, all this. And it was dated the 8th of December 1995, and that was fine. 9 months later, somebody asked me if I would rescue a dog that was badly treated. I already had a dog, and I thought, you know, I can't leave this dog. So I went to see it, and it was a little English Springer, and I brought him home. His name was Charlie, and he was the cheekiest, most unruly animal I've ever had to contend with. And if somebody hadn't written Marley and Me, I would have written Charlie and Me, because it was the most lovable thing that happened with an animal. You fell in love with this character. He was a big character. But 9 months after the drawing was done, we got this dog, and I happened to look and I said, there's something about this animal. And when we opened his barrow, his name was in it, and whatever, saying he was tagged and that this was the number and everything. And when we took him to the vet to get him checked out, and we gave them, these were numbers that were on the owner, previous owner, one of the owners had put on him. And his date of birth came up, and it was the 8th of December, 1995. So it's one thing about an animal coming back that has died. You might think, wow, there was a loving bond. Who had ever met this animal? And how can it be drawn 9 months earlier the way it's going to look 9 months in the future?
Yeah.
Because it hasn't even, it's just begun. It's just been born that night.
Yes.
But it's so bizarre. And Charlie's life had bizarre endings. I mean, the day he was dying of leukemia, and the vet said, this is going to sound bizarre and I don't know how to tell you, but your dog is developing and producing estrogen. And I've never heard of it in my life. It's genitalia, everything was changing to feminine. All happened within a day, and he died. And the amount of estrogen that built up in the dog's body. And it's never been heard of. She checked with her colleagues and she said, I don't know what to tell you. I've never experienced this. He was a very, very special wee man. And we've had messages from him coming back. Not so much these days, but we did when he first passed, which is often the way of phenomena. Shortly after a passing, you're more likely to get phenomena and messages and things. But oh my God, Don, I could go on and on and on about animals in the afterlife, animals in reincarnation. Yeah.
Oh, and you know, the thing is, Gordon, I could listen. I find you're just an absolute joy to listen to. And I guess because Sandra Mitchell had asked if we knew if pets had a mission or a purpose when they come into our lives. Wow. And obviously, you know, you with Charlie, because now Charlie is, I think, mentioned in one of your books, your Animal Magic book. Yeah. The story, and everybody, it's a great story. It just shows you just how much patience you have, Gordon, as a person.
Oh, lots and lots.
I've had a cheeky Charlie in my life as
Yes.
well. And it takes a lot of patience, but I think it's worth it when you put in that work with
Yeah.
them, isn't it? You get it back tenfold.
Well, it's funny because we got another little Springer when Charlie was older. He severed his spine. I mean, Springer Spaniels they're kind of known for this because they jump all over the place. And
Mm-hmm.
he was about 8 when he did that, and his head just fell. Being out in the park, he was trying to catch a frisbee that
Mm-hmm.
children were throwing, and when he got back, his head went down. And anyway, the short version is we took him to the animal hospital, and we didn't have a lot of money, and they said we could operate, but there's no guarantee that he'll walk again because he started to lose the power of his legs that day. And we scraped together, and from every corner that we could, enough money. It was, I think back then it was £4,000,
Mm-hmm.
and which was a heck of a lot of money because 1990s or whatever it was, and we were only working in hairdressers. We didn't have a lot of income, but we somehow managed to get the money, beg, borrow, everything, and Charlie got his op, and he wasn't getting up and he wasn't standing, and the same lady who drew him the day he was born happened to come and see me. She turned up. She'd been in India and she brought back Tibetan medicine, and which you wear normally Tibetan medicine in an amulet around your neck.
Mm-hmm.
And she says it's only in dire situations you take it. She said, now, in Charlie's situation, we should give him a little bit. And she said, no, I have no guarantees what it will do because I don't know what it is. Nobody knows what Tibetan medicine is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's given to you by a yogi, a high lama, something like that. Anyway, we gave him it in a little tube and we went to the hospital that day and thought, come on, some kind of prayers going out there for him.
Mm-hmm.
And the next morning he got up and walked like nothing had ever happened to him. And he got 2 full years. Now, the Tibetan Buddhist friend had said to us, this is not a cure, it's an extension to his life. She said, but that is all we can give him, an extension. So he got 2 years of being able to walk, go swimming every day, and all the things we did because we'd moved near the water then. And he had 2 fabulous years. And I just thought, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And he was a magical dog.
Mm-hmm.
He himself was a magical animal. We know he was. He brought so much love to everybody, even after his rough start.
Mm-hmm.
Difficult animal, but then he'd been beat, kicked, locked up, burnt with cigarettes, the things that happened to that dog when he was a puppy.
Yeah.
So we always made allowances for that dog, and that's why Cheeky Charlie was allowed anything, because he had to learn to love and not be afraid of people.
Mm-hmm.
So we taught him, we just kept loving him no matter what he did. And at the end of his last 2 years of his life, he was a love hound at the end of his life. He loved everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And we got little Maggie came next, or Lady Megan of Kilcreggan. They always have names. And Lady Fluffington. And of course, it was lovely to have a normal dog for a while. We thought, oh, a normal dog. She just goes running, swimming, da-di-da-di-da, doesn't do any crazy stuff like Charlie. But again, to see that personality that Charlie had.
Yeah.
I still have people today talk to me about him. Do you remember Cheeky Charlie? Oh my God, do you remember he stole a woman's handbag? Do you remember he stole a woman's knickers out of her laundry? All of these things, and you go, oh my God, yeah, it's embarrassing. But the personality lives on.
Yeah.
And that, for me, some animals are just larger than life. So are some people, but certainly some animals are.
Yes, I believe that. Oh, Gordon, listen, I can't believe that the time. I think somebody must have made the time go an awful lot quicker there, because that has been so fantastic. I cannot thank you enough for giving up your time, because it's so useful for us to learn and become, where we can be more engaging with our clients, because we have understanding of our, of everybody's beliefs, and that I guess through love, when our companions do pass on, that love and the bond has been so strong and so powerful that there's not much that's, and while we might get signs early on, for example, if they start to peter out, perhaps they know their work has
that's the thing done. And I think it's interesting, or it's kind to tell people. I told my last vet, who, when we had to put Miss Maggie to sleep because she had a brain tumour and she was fitting, it got into fits, and it was horrible to watch her like that. And when we took her, the lady vet had said, oh my, I can see how much she's loved. I mean, there was an entourage came with her. My dog's never come alone. There's all these people. And I went in with the vet, and the vet said, I can't believe how loved she is. Look at all these people. She said, I hate to do this. And I said, I'm going to stop you right there. I said, you have to do it. And I said, and do you know why? I said, this isn't taking a life. This is ending suffering.
Yes.
And we only ever do that, or ask you to do that, when we love them. And this lady, I said, is the most loved dog that I can imagine. I said, so end her suffering for me, would you? And she said, what a beautiful way to put it. And I thought, well, that's what it is.
Yes.
And if we know that we're ending suffering, it helps a bit of the grief. And if the signs come at the first month, even up to the first year, and if they pitch it out, don't see that as a bad thing. See that as a good thing. That means the love you put into that animal and the love it gave back is moving on to a higher level. That's all. So you just think of them. You're up there higher than you've left this realm, and you're in a much higher space. And that's a beautiful thing, to think your animal has ascended rather than left you.
Yes.
No, they've ascended.
Yes, they have. And you know, Gordon, that is just such a fantastic I guess note to end on, that they have ascended. And you know, on behalf, not just myself, but obviously everybody at the Association of Pet Bereavement Counsellors, thank you so much for your time. And if anybody would like to learn more about or get some of Gordon's books, I know this is just me adding this bit in, Gordon. I know you're going, no.
It never bothers me.
He's got GordonSmithMedium.com. Please go along and take a look at his work on there. It's absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much, Gordon. And I hope it's not as long till I see you the next.
I hope not, Dawn. We had a great first meeting. We laughed for God knows how long. So
we did, didn't we?
I love the work you do, and I think it's really special. Anything I can ever do to help, I'm the other end of a phone call or a video.
Oh, thank you so much, Gordon. Thanks a million.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Gordon.
Good luck,
night.
Dawn.
Thank you for all your help.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.